Hello and welcome to your guide to marketing your house. Your guide today is Brian. Brian, welcome.
Hey, Justin, how are you?
Doing great. Brian has marketed many houses. He's going to be our guide today. But first, Brian, let me ask you this question. If you were in a neighborhood, any neighborhood here in Atlanta or any neighborhood in the world, what would be your spirit neighborhood?
Well, I do love Atlanta, and I currently live in East Atlanta Village, and I love it here. What I love the most about it is the walkability. So
Yep.
if I had to take that to the next level, downtown Portland is actually organized by streets. So it runs A to Z, and then it runs 1 through like 100. So no matter where you are in the city, you know exactly where you are, and you can never get lost.
Man, I love that, Brian. Yeah, and you can take the light rail. They've got lots of trails. I mean, I can see that for sure. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into marketing our listing. So we're about to take this listing live, take it out there and find a buyer. What's the first thing to do when marketing a listing?
I think the first thing to do when you're marketing anything, especially a home, is to take a look at the product. So take a look at what you've got. What are the selling features of the home that we really want to drive home? What are the things that we can improve upon to get the most bang for your buck?
Love that. So we take a look at the home, and then are we trying to figure out what we want to play up, or are we trying to not show certain things, or what do we do once we have taken kind of the lay of the land?
Yeah, so I think a set of fresh eyes is always great to start out with. We like to bring in an interior designer to go over every listing with every seller. And so we want to go room by room and see what's, the pros in this room, what's the cons in this room. You definitely want to drive home the selling features. Sometimes you can do a little quick thing to make something shine, like maybe you want to add fresh bath mats to the bathroom in the master bathroom. That capitalizes on what might be a great renovation and just makes it look that much extra better for the photos.
Give people the inside scoop, Brian. Does having, a visual coordinator or interior designer or stager or whatever, does that actually make a difference for people buying a house when you market it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a big difference between living your day to day life in a home and then trying to position your house to sell on the market.
So much difference. What would you say are some of the biggest things of that? I mean, you're so right, but what do you think are a couple of the biggest things that are different?
Well, I mean, a few things of how you would live your day-to-day life. Maybe you've got pots and pans in the kitchen or towels hanging up in the bathroom, stuff like that. Little things that, aren't necessarily what you would want show ready. You want to clean up and put your best foot forward. I think a good saying is that in life, first impressions are important, but that's also true in real estate. First impressions are very important.
For sure. So we're making sure we know our product, we're getting the product to look the best that it possibly can. And then how do we make that first impression to the market?
This is when what I like to call a grand market entrance comes into effect.
A
So
grand market entrance. Take a pause. I like that. A grand market entrance. All right. Tell me, what is a grand market entrance?
the grand market entrance is when we get somebody in there, we get those fresh eyes in there, we see what's going on with your house, we tackle a to-do list, get it completely photo ready. We bring in professional photographers, make sure that the lighting, the angles, everything is the best that it can be. We get the best photos we can. Then we craft a listing description. We pair those photos with some great copy, and then we push it out into the world.
Brian, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but you have been called a listing description genius by multiple people. Can you give a quick tip on how you write a genius listing description?
I love to look at the individual things of every home. I mean, there's some key buzzwords. People love open floor plans, they love granite countertops, whatever you might have. But every home has a story to tell. And so when you look at the photos, what really pops out at you? And just kind of capturing the character, the essence of a home, and then putting it out there is I would think would be the key.
People love a story, right? And I mean, to be able to tell a story, that's just more interesting and more captivating than facts. It really is.
Hmm.
Awesome. So we've got the house ready. We're getting ready for this grand entrance. We've got our description and pictures. And so then what do you do to actually introduce it, into the market and get it into everybody's eyes and into their laptops and phones and all that?
Yeah, so the actual process of inputting a listing, what we found is that Thursdays are the most optimal day to list a house. And that's because typically it can take 24 hours or so for the listing to get out there everywhere. So you want your listing up by Friday, showing in front of everyone on Zillow, Realtor.com, whatever. And that way you can get ahead of those weekend showings. Most people go out on the weekends to see the house. So we want to make sure that we're right there in front of that, and then we're capturing as much interest as we can right then. So creating a little bit of a sense of urgency by putting it right there up against the weekend, but then also making sure that we're fully capturing it.
And that's completely backed by data. There have been multiple studies done showing that Thursday is the best day to list. The last one that Redfin did, if I recall correctly, I think it was a $3,000 difference on average between listing on Monday and Thursday. So that's a pretty significant amount of money.
Yeah, it definitely is. And every dollar counts when you're putting into a listing.
So we've got everything out there. We're getting it out into the world. It's syndicating, which means it's going out to all the different websites. What about, so that's kind of like the digital marketing side of it. What about marketing in the house for people who come to see it?
Yeah, so I feel like it's really important to make sure that the showing experience matches what you see online. So we want to make sure that whatever we put in the house is actually backing that up. We do a thing that we like to call silent sellers. These are little note cards that we put throughout the home that highlight those key features that you might see in a listing description, but when you're in the home, necessarily you don't have a description in front of your face. So we take those highlights and we put them throughout the home. Just if there's a fireplace, next to the fireplace, we put it on the mantle. And so when you're walking through the house, you really can capture get the full benefits of that showing experience, something that somebody who's someone else's agent might not necessarily know about the house when they're walking through.
Sure. What about, so we talked, this is kind of like a little bit of the mass marketing and people coming in, and it's a little bit of passive, but what about the ground game? I mean, what about the phone calls you're making and the outbound stuff that you're doing to market a house, in addition to just putting it out there where other people can kind of, come and consume it? What else are you doing more proactive than just putting it out there?
Yeah, so there's a very interesting feature called reverse prospecting. And this is a great tool. It's one of the best tools in an agent's toolbox, I think. Anybody who is set up on a search through the system, they are looking at certain properties in certain areas and stuff. And we can actually go in and find out who's looking in these areas. And we can reach out to these people directly and just let them know, hey, this is on the market. This is available. We'd love to get you in for a showing. And so we send emails and make phone calls through that vein a lot of times.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is really a great way to connect with people who are actually looking for that type of a property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what about you got the grand market entrance, which a lot of times does sell the houses, and your statistics show that often that does sell the house. But what if the house doesn't sell in that grand market entrance? What can you do to continue to market the house to get the right buyer in after that first week or weekend is over?
Yeah, so after your grand market entrance, I think feedback then becomes more important. You have to know what is going on, what the perception of the market is, and then you can adjust and pivot from there. So we like to make our feedback calls daily. We call every showing that has happened the day before, figure out how it went, what we could do, if we can encourage an offer, and then also just figure out what's going on with the listing. And if there's something that we can do that's a small change to tweak it to make it better, we definitely want to do that.
Yeah, Brian, it is so cool seeing you spend so much time getting this feedback. I mean, just great information to figure out how to market the home moving forward. And I also know from the other side of showing thousands of houses, it's pretty rare that I get an actual phone call, but that information is so powerful. I'm always surprised people don't do that.
Yeah, and I mean, being in real estate, we all know that you get hundreds, maybe even thousands of emails in your inbox every day. If you can just pick up a phone and make a person-to-person contact really quickly, figure out what's going on with the listing and get that feedback, it's so powerful. And, anytime I can, I want to pick up the phone and just get to the bottom of it when I can.
For sure. I love that. All right. What about the virtual aspect of marketing, which has been even bigger as we've had, stay-at-home initiatives in place? What about virtual tours and that's virtual reality, that sort of thing?
No, virtual tours are more important now than ever. We're seeing that a lot of buyers, we're stuck at home. And so we want to make sure that we're doing all we can to meet them where they are. It's important that buyers are able to go through homes and see the different aspects and move throughout it as if they were there themselves. So we're creating links that are easily copied and shared from agents to their buyers, as well as putting out Zillow optimized videos that just automatically sync up across those platforms.
Yeah, it's been cool to see that this is actually better all around because it's just more efficient. I mean, a lot of times a buyer can tell whether this house is right for them without coming to see it. And isn't it better for the seller to have 4 people come through the house and get one offer than to have 12 people come through the house and get one offer? I mean, you get that one offer either way. It just seems so much better.
Yeah, I mean, if it's easier on our clients, then we want to do that. We want to make the process as smooth and painless as possible. And if we can get in front of certain people at their homes before they come into the house, that's great.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So Brian, what would you say if you had one secret or one like most important thing to marketing a house, what would it be?
I would have to circle back to making the showing experience match what you present online. It's so important to make sure that your home matches the photos you're putting out there, that when someone walks into their house, they're not disappointed. They're more excited to see it in person. When they see it, they're moving through and they're like, oh, I remember this part. Oh, I really wanted to check out this room. So I would just say making sure that you take the time to create a showing experience for every person that comes through.
That is such a pro tip. I absolutely love that. Brian, thanks for being our guide today. We really appreciate it. Everyone, thanks for watching. We will see you on the next one. Brian, thanks again.
All right. Thanks, Justin. Bye.
Bye.